So you finally hit $20,000 in your savings account, which is absolutely a reason to celebrate. But what you do next is probably one of the most important financial decisions that you will ever make. Because we want this $20,000 in savings to be a foundation for everything you do next, not a final destination point. In this video, I'm gonna break down exactly why $20,000 in your savings account is such an inflection point in the financial system and how it's designed to set you up to fail. And more importantly, stick around until the end because I'm gonna share with you a 3-layer framework on exactly how to protect that $20,000 and show how to build upon that moving forward. Now listen, I don't want to take away from how significant it is to reach $20,000 in your savings account for the first time. You've been disciplined, you've said no to things while other people around you are just spending carelessly or freely. You've been saving for years, whether it's 2 years or 6 years. But for the first time ever, you open up your app and you see $20,000 saving in your account and you feel that sigh of relief. You feel like you've made it to a significant point in your financial plan. It's not easy to save $20,000. It's not, especially now more than ever. But when you reach that point, I want you to understand that this should not be a final destination. We want to start to look at that $20,000 as being your new floor that you don't want to go below. And the most important part about that is what are the systems and structure and discipline you have around that time frame and what you do next, which is going to pay off the most in the long run. Now, the people who understand this framework, which I'm going to share with you towards the end of the video, don't just use it to protect their first $20,000 in savings. They use it to buy something the financial system simply doesn't want you to have. Options, freedom, the ability to say no to situations that don't serve you. So stay with me and let's get into it. Now, before we talk about what comes after saving your first $20,000, let's talk about what comes before it. And I want to establish just how significant that benchmark is. The Fed data shows that 37% of Americans could not afford to pay for a $400 emergency expense. They'd either need to sell something, borrow money, or simply just not pay it. $400. Let that sink in. The US personal savings rate has been running around 4 to 5% of disposable income, which is about half of where it was at in the 60s and in the 70s. What's unfortunate is our current financial system is literally designed to keep you behind. Not broke enough to panic constantly, but it's designed to not allow you to get far enough to have any real leverage in your life. And that's exactly what I want to help people fix and get ahead of. So saving that first $20,000 signifies the fact that you've finally been able to break out of that cycle or that mold that most people unfortunately never escape. And that's not a small thing whatsoever. But I also want you to look at it as the new beginning, not the end of a previous goal. And understanding the importance of that difference is what really sets apart people who build real wealth and people who stay stuck. So let's talk about the roller coaster that most people never escape. Here's the pattern that I see constantly. You hit $20,000 in your savings and you start to sit back. You realize like, I could take a breath of fresh air. I can breathe right now. I can afford a more expensive dinner. I can afford that extra subscription that I don't need. Maybe it's time to get a nicer car, or maybe it's time to get a nicer apartment. That lifestyle creep that we're all guilty of whenever we hit different financial benchmarks, whether it's we get a raise or we have a certain amount of savings, the want or the personal desire to start to kind of almost loosen the reins on your discipline and how you're managing your money is very normal and natural for a lot of people, but that is exactly what will keep you stuck. And that is exactly what you want to avoid. Avoiding lifestyle creep or avoiding the constant need to increase our spending or increase our bills as we make more or have more money is one of the #1 reasons truly that people never build generational wealth. But you can make the decision to not be part of that statistic. And it all comes down to the systems and decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis. This is exactly one of the core foundational principles of my wealth execution program that I've designed for my higher income earners, where we immediately take an audit of every area of your financial plan and make sure that your money and systems are in place and in line with your actual goals and where you're at currently. There's a link in my description if you want to apply to that program, and more information coming on that later. But let's start to dig into the actual math that starts to work in your favor. because this is where things start actually working for you instead of against you. The first several years that you're saving, your deposits, your actual contributions are what's going to do basically all the heavy lifting. If you have $2,000 sitting in your account and it earns 8% that year, that's $160. Yes, that's some extra money in your account, but it's not a life-changing amount. Whereas if you have $100,000 in an account and that same account and earns the same 8% return, that's an $8,000 appreciation in that account, which is much more meaningful. So the point I'm trying to make is for the first few years where you really start getting into the savings mode and investing mode, just know that those first few years, we're not going to be relying on the stock market or savings returns to do a lot of the heavy lifting. A lot of the heavy lifting really comes from the discipline and the systems that you have in place by physically being able to contribute and add to that account. Research from Vanguard shows that those who have a meaningful savings buffer had financial well-being scores 21% higher than those that do not. And for those that actually have 3 to 6 months of expenses actually saved for, have an additional 13% higher scores on overall financial well-being. So it just goes to show that when you are at a place where you have enough money saved and set aside in case of emergencies to cover your bills, it doesn't just free up the ability to be able to navigate unexpected expenses, it frees up mental energy and brain power so that you can start to use that towards how can I start to build upon this? How can I build upon this foundation rather than just trying to survive? But here's the catch. If you keep pulling from that base or foundation that you've built, you never really get to have the runway that your money needs to really start to compound and do the heavy lifting for you. Compounding requires stability. The tree has to stay in the ground long enough to actually grow real roots. So before we move on, just the one main takeaway so far is that when it comes to saving your first $20,000 in savings, I want you to understand not only how significant that is, but truly understand that your heavy lifting is what got you there. We're not relying on compounding returns just yet, but your dedication to making better financial decisions and saving money the right way so that you can reach these benchmarks. Now, let's talk about how the financial system around us starts to get more aggressive once you hit this $20,000 benchmark. Here's something most financial content won't actually say directly. Once you hit $20,000 in your savings account, you become much more valuable and attractive of a consumer to everyone around you. Banks, family, friends, social media. You now become a different target for these institutions. And it is literally designed to be that way. Once you hit this level of savings, they now want to find ways to start to extract it back out of you. And unfortunately, most people fall for the trap. This is where all of a sudden you start to see expensive cars being marketed on your social media or your Google, or more expensive homes or lifestyles. You all of a sudden get credit card offers in the 5 digits to increase your credit balance or open a new credit card. These are literal financial traps designed to prey on human nature. And that's one of the things that frustrates me most about our financial system is it's not set up for our success, it's set up for our failure so that they can make the money. The banks and the financial system make money from people who look solid but have not actually set up a good financial foundation or systems in place to really build and leverage their own wealth. So they start taking it from underneath of you without us even really noticing that it's happening in the first place. The average new car payment in the United States is about $745 a month, which is ridiculous. Over 5 years, that's over $45,000 out of your pocket for a car, which is a depreciating asset. It literally loses value every day, every mile that you drive. But we all need a car, right? Do we need a more expensive car though? That's the real question. Credit card rates right now are 24, 25%, sometimes as bad as 30%, which is also outrageous. It literally is designed that if you're carrying a credit card balance, it is so difficult to pay that off. And if lifestyle creep is pushing you into carrying that balance over the course of several months, that rate is gonna constantly drain all of the money that you have coming in, because now you're just paying it towards the interest that's accumulating on that debt. And those purchases just became exponentially more expensive because you're carrying a balance on a very high interest rate credit card. None of this is conspiracy. This is literally just how the system is designed. Your job is to open your eyes and see it clearly and recognize it for what it is, so that you don't fall into this trap like most of us do on a regular basis, and we can start to be making better, more informed financial decisions. And one of the ways that we can really be very intentional with trying to avoid these traps is by having actual cash flow management systems in place, which is one of the very first steps of the wealth execution program, is putting together systems in place so that every time money comes in, we know exactly where your money is going, which accounts, whether it's a 401k, high yield savings account, brokerage account, how much every month, and why, and set benchmarks in place and give you a 12-month roadmap so that we can put money where it needs to go before you even have a chance to fall into these traps. So again, if that's something that you want more information, there is a link in my description so that you can apply to the program, and stay tuned for more information on that as well. The next thing I want to touch a little bit more on is this personal identity trap that's very easy to fall into when we reach these benchmarks, like having your first $20,000 in savings. You just spent months or years being very disciplined, packing the lunches, saying no to things on the weekends, not spending money that you don't have on trips that are too expensive. And now all of a sudden you feel this overall sense of relief that you've hit this major milestone of having $20,000 in your savings account. As I mentioned earlier in the video, this is one of the most important points in your financial plan, because it is right now how you decide to manage your behavior now that you've hit this milestone is what's either going to set you up for success or just keep you stuck like everybody else. One of the first things that we want to do when you hit this initial benchmark of $20,000 in your account is now reassess where everything's at and what your systems are. Before, every extra dollar was likely going directly into this savings account to get up to that $20,000 benchmark that you've been wanting to hit for so long. So the system prior to right now was pretty straightforward. If I had any extra money, it was going into the savings account and it was a race to $20,000. But now that you've hit the $20,000 benchmark, what do we do next? So let's talk about the 3-layer framework. We want to start thinking about your money as one distinct number and start to think about it in 3 layers, all that have 3 distinct jobs. Layer 1, the floor. This is your never go below again money, and it's 3 to 6 months of your actual bare minimum expenses, your rent, utilities, food, non-negotiables. For most people in the United States, this lands anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000 for this 3 to 6 month bucket, depending on where you live. And this money has one job: to keep you out of panic mode in case there is an emergency that comes up. This is meant to be in your high yield savings account online, earning at least 3 to 4% based on where interest rates are. And it is not to be touched no matter what. Not to take a trip to Barcelona, not to get a new pair of shoes or next clothes for a trip that you have coming up. That money is not to ever go below the threshold and at a bare minimum 3 months of expenses. You do not want to look at the floor as some sort of a trophy. You want to look at this as, I cannot survive or function without this money in this account, because it's not a matter of if something might go wrong or come up, it's a matter of when. Layer number 2, the growth layer. Everything above your floor is now where your money goes to work for you. Low cost index funds, retirement accounts, brokerage accounts. Obviously, everybody's situation is different, so how much in which bucket is very specific to you and your goals and where you're at. So obviously you want to make sure before you start setting up, putting money in different buckets, you know exactly how much should be going where for you. The problem is, I see this all the time. People put too much into their retirement accounts too early, too quickly in the earlier stages of their life, and now that money is now tied up until you retire. But the reality is we have other options on how we can get our money to work for us, like a brokerage account, for example. So we want to be looking at low-cost index funds, well-diversified, growth-oriented, that are suitable for you based on your time horizon and your overall risk tolerance. Vanguard statistics show that people in their 40s and 50s have significantly less money in their retirement accounts than they should for their age bracket. The average right now is about $134,000 in a retirement account, which means most people are drastically ahead. And the reason that is because most people do not spend the time to educate themselves on the true systems that they should have and foundation and where they should be putting their money. And it is very hard for a lot of people to manage their financial decisions and manage their behavior because most people were not taught how the game works. And then we have layer 3, the options layer. This is where real life happens. Moving to a new city that makes more sense for who you are or who you want to become. Traveling. Money is meant to be spent in this layer, but intentionally. You want to start to really enjoy what you built as well, because we can only work so hard and stay so motivated so long as we're actually showing ourselves that there are ways to celebrate and enjoy that hard work over time. But one thing to keep in mind, this money should never come from the floor itself. There should be a balance between what's going into your growth layer and what's going into your options layer. We want to be very intentional about that dynamic and how much is going where, but no matter what, we want to make sure we're not funding that bucket unless our floor is not only fully funded, but we're not actually taking money out of that. So let me just give you a quick example. If your bare minimum monthly costs are about $3,000, that means we need to have $9,000 to $18,000 in your emergency savings bucket. And let's just say you have $26,000 in cash right now, which means you're working with roughly $6,000 to $8,000 above your floor. So in that scenario, we might want to allocate $4,000 of the $6,000 surplus into your growth bucket, into your investments that we're going to invest in the stock market and we're not going to touch. And then $2,000 of that surplus we can apply towards our options layer for the year. So your travel or new clothes or whatever it is that you want to spend that surplus on to enjoy. That's it. It's all about balance, systems, and structure. If you have a system in place and you understand what your floor is and you've already reached that benchmark, and we know that if you were to get a $10,000 bonus, we want to apply $7,000 or $8,000 of that to your growth bucket and your investments, and spend $2,000 to $3,000 of that on something that's going to bring joy or happiness to your life so that you can continue to stay motivated and keep working hard in your life. Now listen, most people will touch that $20,000 floor at some point in your life. Obviously, that is what it is designed for, emergencies, things that we're not planning for. But it is the people who treat that $20,000 truly as a floor and the foundation on which we're going to build all of our financial systems above and beyond that separate those that build real wealth from those that stay stuck. You do not want to treat that $20,000 like a finish line, because the systems around us are literally designed to start to find ways to extract that money from us left and right everywhere we look. So you want to protect everything, the floor, the growth layer, and the options layer in that order. If you take money out of your floor layer, then the first priority is to recoup that and get it back up to that $20,000 benchmark or whatever it is, so that you feel safe with your 3 to 6 months of expenses in that bucket. Now, if this has helped you think a little bit more clear on how you can start to structure your money or some of your decisions, please subscribe to my channel, because I will be continuing to do a lot more videos on financial wellness, behavioral management, and the goal is not to just be providing you with tips, but I want to be giving you real life examples of how you can be making better financial decisions in the future. Now, one of the things that we briefly talked about today is getting invested in the stock market. So if you need a little bit of education on how stocks work and what they are, stay tuned and check out my video on stocks so you can get some education and get caught up to speed on how they work and how you can utilize them in your own life.